I now hand the conference over to Ms. Mayura Busari from Christensen Advisory. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am. Ms. Mayura, your line is in talk mode. Please proceed.
Yes. Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon to all participants in this call. A warm welcome to the Q4 and full year FY21 earnings call of Heramba Industries Limited. The results and the investor presentation have been mailed to you and is also available on the company website at www.heramba.co.in. In case anyone doesn't have a copy of the press release and the presentation, please do write to us and we will be happy to send the same to you. To take us to the results today and answer your questions, we have with us the top management of the company represented by Mr. R.K. Shetty, Managing Director, Mr. Ronak Shetty, Executive Director, and Mr. Maheshwar Godbole, Chief Financial Officer. Mr. R.K. Shetty will start the call with a brief overview of the company and will then be followed by Mr. Godbole giving highlights of the financials for the quarter Q4 and the full year. We will then open the floor for the question and answer session. I would like to remind you that anything that is said in this call which gives any outlook for the future or which can be construed as a forward-looking statement must be viewed in conjunction with the risks and uncertainties that we face. These risks and uncertainties included, but not limited to what we have mentioned in the prospectus filed with SEBI and also in the subsequent annual report that you will find on the website. With that introduction, I will now hand over call to Mr. R.K. Shetty. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello to all and welcome to the Q4 FY 2021 earnings call of Heramba. First of all, I hope you all along with your family members are safe and keeping well. These are tough times and one of a kind pandemic situation world is facing. The second wave especially has been much widespread than the first one. We all experienced or close towards getting affected. Hope now it is past us. We at Heramba, being a part of an essential sector, would keep our factory operations running with enough manpower. We have been maintaining utmost hygiene norms in all our facilities. For us, employee health and their well-being is paramount and we continue to work from home for our administrative staff. Now coming to business updates. As you all know, this is our first call post our successful IPO in March 2021. Thanks to your support and belief in the management, our IPO was oversubscribed more than 80 times. We, the senior management of the company, are on our toes to take the company to the next level with a clear focus on long-term growth of the company. For the benefit of new investors in the call, I'll take you through our journey along with a brief walkthrough around our product facilities and our long-term vision for the business. Also, as you know, our current CFO, Mr. Maheshwar Godbole, is retiring and we have appointed a new CFO. So for this call, Mr. Maheshwar Godbole will take you through the highlights of financial and operational performance, and from next time onwards, you will hear from our new CFO. We formed Heramba in 1996 with an objective of providing innovative products to farmers. Our vision is to improve crop productivity, and public health. We manufacture synthetic pyrethroids and its intermediates in India. We have a wide network of business across the world, in India being a manufacturing hub. We produce advanced agrochemical solutions based on specially developed technology. Our public health products are supplied to both government tenders and to pest control companies. We are fully equipped in-house R&D facilities with all the necessary laboratory equipment in place. Now coming to our manufacturing facilities. We are fully integrated in modern manufacturing facilities with R&D facilities situated in prime industrial township of Gujarat at a distance of 150 kilometers from Mumbai. There are 3 independent manufacturing units, of which 2 are situated in the industrial belt of Vapi and 1 in Sarigam. These manufacturing facilities offer a range of crop protection and public health solutions. Of these 3 independent manufacturing units, 2 of these units situated in Vapi are involved in production of various technicals and intermediates, while the 3rd unit at Sarigam is purely a formulation and packing facility. There are separate R&D facility at Vapi and Sarigam for product development and process intensification. The plot size of our Sarigam unit is 55,000 square meters, of which 22,300 square meters is operational with the formulation and packing facilities, and the rest 32,700 square meters is earmarked for future expansion into technical manufacturing, and we have applied for necessary permission before the relevant authority. For additional capacity in one of the plots in Vapi, we have already initiated capital expenditure and expect our production to start from Q3 FY22. Recently, we have also acquired another plot adjacent to our existing units. This will also help us to increase our current capacity as well as introduce new products in our baskets. We have recently received consent from Gujarat Pollution Control Board to establish manufacturing of products at Saika. It's a 34,600 square meter land parcel which is to be used for further expansion. We already have environmental clearance in place. The plan is to set up a manufacturing unit of approximately 10,680 tons per annum capacity. I would like to talk briefly about our R&D and testing. We have a state-of-the-art R&D center and a pilot plant. Our formulation development lab has been set up with the lab-scale equipment like bed mill, air-jet mill, extruders, fluidized bed dryer, and many more. The facility fulfills the requirement for organic synthesis as well as formulation development. We have well-equipped qualified team of research personnel and scientists working for the continuous improvement of existing products and the development of new products. So where do we go from here? I think we are well positioned to exploit the widespread growth opportunities, especially in the agrochemical markets. Some steps we think here are our top priorities in coming 3 years. Strengthening our R&D facilities and pilot plant, enhancing production capabilities, enhancing formulation and technical business in international markets through registration, enhancing branded formulation and public health business. These steps will definitely lead us to our immediate goal of entering into regulated markets as well as other untapped geographies across the globe, and longer term goal of having a diversified geographical portfolio. We have already started our journey towards this. Here are some initiatives we have already taken. On the research and development side, 5 new molecules are in R&D. Out of these, 2 are fungicides, 2 are herbicides, 1 is an insecticide for sale in the regulated markets. Once the new molecules are successfully established, they will be filed for registration across the globe, considering its market potential through companies' international distribution partners. We are looking to exploit opportunities in various technicals going off patent in the coming year, whereby the company can manufacture and supply the generic versions of the molecules in the highly regulated markets of US, Europe, and Latin America. As of now, in Europe, our distribution partners have already received registration for deltamethrin technical, lambda-cyhalothrin technical, alpha-cypermethrin technical, and metribuzin technical is in process before the relevant authority in EU. While in USA, our partners have applied for registration of lambda-cyhalothrin technical, and recently one of them has already received the registration. Now I would like to hand over the call to Mr. Maheshwar Godbole to take us through the financials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shetty, and good evening to everyone. Now, I would like to briefly touch upon the key performance highlights for the quarter and the year ended March 21, and then we will open up the floor for the question and answer. On the revenue side, Q4 for the financial year 21, we had a revenue at 2,731.75 million versus rupees 2,295.25 million in Q4 FY20, a growth of 19.02% on Y-to-Y basis and a degrowth of 18.04% on Q-on-Q basis. For financial year 21, revenue is at rupees 12,256.77 million versus rupees 9,679.06 million in financial year 20, a growth of 26.63%. Now looking at the EBITDA margins, Q4 FY21 margins is at rupees 630.45 million versus rupees 412.96 million in Q4 financial year 20, a growth of 52.67% on Y-to-Y basis and a degrowth of 3.27% on Q-on-Q basis. Coming to Q4 of financial year 21, EBITDA margins including other income margins is at 23.54% versus 19.33% in Q4 of FY20 and 19.60% in Q3 for financial year 21. For full financial year 21, EBITDA margin including other income is at 2,283.69 million versus rupees 1,458.82 million in financial year 20, with a margin at 18.74% versus a margin of 15.33% last year. Despite the challenging environment, the margins of the company has been stable as a result of our strong product mix and presence across the geography. Now coming to the profit after tax, for the Q4 for the financial year 21, PAT is at rupees 431.99 million versus rupees 262.64 million in Q4 for the financial year 20, a growth of 64.48% on Y-to-Y basis. For the financial year 21, PAT is at rupees 1542.26 million versus rupees 976.57 million for the financial year 20, a growth of 57.93%. This resulted in earning per share being at rupees 39.41 for during financial year 21 as against rupees 25 for the financial year 20, a growth of 57.64%. Now moving on to the balance sheet as of March 31st, 2021. As most of you know, the company doesn't have any long-term debt on our books and cash position stood at approximately rupees 847.80 million. For financial year 21, ROE stood at 36.33% and ROCE stood at 49.25%. Now with this, we will now open up for discussions and question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. A reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, may be requested to rejoin the queue. The first question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Last year, China had this armyworm infestation, which shot up the pyrethroid prices and volumes. So, how would have it influenced the year gone by numbers, and how should it influence the numbers for next year? And are the prices of pyrethroids holding up? So that's my first question. My second question is, considering that the pyrethroid market is a single-digit growth market, what should be our strategy for growth, and do we have any white spaces of any products which we do not manufacture in the core? So I know we make Lambda, Delta, and Alpha, but are there any other products where there are white spaces and opportunities? And my last question is, our cash flow for FY21, which the year gone by, was a little bit weak considering the receivables days. So any comments there on the cash flow side?
Okay. Hi, this is Ronak here. So regarding the price question that you had, so last year in FY 19-20, so prices of pyrethroids were more or less stable only. It had not gone up. Maybe in the previous year to that, the prices were high. Then it stabilized at a price point, and now it is at that level only. So during the pandemic also, there's not been a major effect in the prices of pyrethroids. Maybe a minor effect of around 7%, approx 5 to 7% in some of the products. So coming to your second point of growth in pyrethroids, so basically we have started from a very low base, and over the period we've increased our volumes. So we do not feel it is saturated market, even though it is growing at a pace of single digit growth, that is around 7%. But our exports from India have been in double digit, and there have been cases where multinationals like Bayer and all have also projected a better growth prospects for pyrethroid market as such, because organophosphorus compounds are facing issues from few of the restricted markets like USA and Europe. So pyrethroids would directly be benefiting from this decision from regulatory authorities. Thirdly, regarding cash flows, so our cash flow from operations last year were around 54 crores, which has gone up to 60 crores. So I feel over the period we have improved on our cash flows from operations. Also, our free cash flows have been positive over the last 3-4 years. I think that should not be a concern. Other specific question, because I thought this is what.
Yeah. So just two were missed out. So are there any white spaces in our product portfolio? Because I think pyrethroids have a fairly large portfolio. I saw we have the three main ones, but are there any white spaces? And second, on the growth rate and what you mentioned about Bayer saying that growth is going to be good in pyrethroids. Some countries in Europe have kind of banned pyrethroids. So, and on the other hand, we have these organophosphorus compounds whose benefits can flow into pyrethroids. So, there, if you have any comments on these two observations.
Yeah. So countries where there are, basically pyrethroids are safer molecules. None of the bigger markets where pyrethroids are going in good volumes have banned this product yet. But there are a lot of cases where organophosphorus like acephate or chlorpyrifos have come in the light of few of the regulatory authorities like in USA and Europe. So I don't think in near term there would be any issue in pyrethroids. Regarding white spaces, if I think you mean to ask about opportunities, then we have not yet fully entered in all the geographies. So today we are very strong in the Asia Pacific region. We have not yet tapped some of the restricted markets like Latin America, US, Europe. So those are where we see good growth opportunities in future. Plus, not all the pyrethroids have been looked into yet. So we will be looking into a few other pyrethroids also, the bigger ones. Like lambda cyhalothrin, we recently received registration in USA. And for few of the molecules in the pyrethroid segment, we have received registration in EU. Also, we have applied for one registration for one of the pyrethroids, which is not a very big pyrethroid today, in US and Europe. Once we get that product registration, it would also contribute to our top line.
So LATAM, which is 40% of the market, is a white space for us where we have opportunity?
Yeah, Latin, US could be a good opportunity that we could look into in future.
Okay.
We do not have registrations today, but in few of the countries like US and Europe, we have recently received, that is last year. So this could be some of the growth areas where pyrethroids would move well.
Lastly, sir, if you could comment on your CapEx.
Mr. Cheda, for any follow-up, may we request you to rejoin the queue, please? Thank you.
Okay.
The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So the first question is, in terms of our revenues, is there any quarterly variation? And out of the total exports, technical exports, how much is to regulated and non-regulated markets? Thank you.
See, regarding the revenue gaps, I think as in the variation in revenues, we are fairly present in most of the countries. We are present today in 60 countries, and so we do not face major issues when it comes to the major revenue differences quarter to quarter. So it's fairly constant or stable, you could say. Secondly, what was your second question?
Yeah, so out of the total exports, I think 81% is technical exports. So which and all geographies are targeted for the same?
Currently, major geography that we sell in are Asia Pacific and Middle East and Africa. And we've recently received registrations in some of the European, CIS, and US countries. In the Latin, we have applied, not received yet. Some business is going on today, but there is good scope in these markets.
Yep. The second question is on the EHS front. So how are we placed in terms of our environmental initiative?
We have all the necessary EHS related facilities in-house, as well as we have membership in Gujarat GIDC, Vapi Estate. So that way we follow utmost care in all the EHS related environment and safety aspects within our facility.
Just wanted to understand whether our plans are zero liquid discharge or we are planning to go in over the next foreseeable future.
Pardon?
No, it is not zero discharge. We have the required permission for discharge. So now not necessary to go for ZLD. We have in-house treatment facility, as well as we are member in the common facility also. So no need to go for zero discharge in future also. We are comfortable.
Sure. Thanks a lot and the best of luck, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Varshit Shah from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations to the management for a good set of numbers. Sir, I want to allude to your earlier comment on the new facility that Sarigam and Dahej. So you alluded that you have roughly greater than 10,000 tons per annum capacity at Dahej, which will come up over the course of time. And you have a similar land parcel at Sarigam also. So if I do the rough math, I think currently from around 9,000 odd tons, your capacity actually will go up to maybe 31,000 tons, let's say over a period of like two and a half years whenever you fully execute the capex. So is that assessment right, that your capacity will actually treble, let's say in two and a half years, purely from a technical manufacturing point of view? That's my first question.
Yes.
Okay. And since such a huge capacity will not be just pyrethroid, but you also alluded that you have 5 new molecules also coming up which are non-pyrethroid. So what is the approximate range of pyrethroid contribution today in our revenue, and would that decline, let's say 2-3 years from now, as you also mentioned that you will be entering some recently off-patent molecules in some niche markets as well. So while you might grow the pyrethroids pie, but the other molecules will grow faster. So if you could just throw some light, what is the current pyrethroid contribution and how it could look like, let's say in 2-3 years?
Currently, our pyrethroid contribution is around 65% of our total turnover. That would include both formulations as well as technicals. Over the next 3 years, we feel it would come to around 55 odd percentage on both, considering both technical and formulations.
Sure. And sir, on this new capex, both at the Dahej and Sarigram, what is the reasonable asset turn which we should expect, and would this also lead to, since these products might be recently off-patent as well, and some new molecules which could be higher margin than pyrethroid. So are this in, first question is the margin higher in this new molecules which you have planned, and what could be the potential market size of some of these molecules if you could just share that?
Regarding margins, as a blended margin, our margins would be more or less in this lines that we are showing today. And what was your second question?
Yeah, and my second question is, what could be the reasonable asset turns, given that you are very efficient in your current operation? So what would be the reasonable asset turn? Is 2.5, 3 times a reasonable asset turn on this asset at peak utilization?
We feel we will be able to maintain what we have today, that is around 3.5 times in our technical front. In the formulation, generally, there are higher asset turns. That's why our blended asset turns would look better than the rest of the agrochemical companies.
Sure. And just one last question on the cash flow. So I could just observe that your payable days actually has gone down, which has led to slightly lower than expected growth in the operating cash flow, and your gross margin has actually spiked this quarter. So my first question is that you have sort of traded off extra cash with better terms on the raw material purchase, and hence the margin has spiked up. So is that the right assessment? And because if I were to normalize your payables, roughly your cash should be higher by around 70 odd crores, 60 odd crores.
Yes, you are right. But of course, it's one of the factors in margin expansion. Right, we are procure raw materials quite economically. And second thing is a better product mix. And to some extent, in some products, some areas, better realization. It's a combination of that, not only one factor.
So if I were to eliminate the cash-related effect on the gross margin, I think you have reported almost 40% gross margin this quarter, and annually you have reported 36%. What is the reasonable level of gross margin one should expect going into next year?
Going ahead also, we will be maintaining this kind of a margin, though not much improvement. But of course, it will be this margin, gross margins level will be maintained.
The annual number, right? 36%. Hello? Hello?
Yes.
You were referring to the annual margin levels, right?
Right, annual margin.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashwini Agarwal from Ashmore Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Congratulations on a very good set of numbers to kick off the season, the first earnings in post listing. The question I had was on domestic formulations. This has slightly been increasing from 18% to now nearly 21%. Could you walk us through as to what are your plans on the branded formulations in India, and what kind of margin profile does this piece of the business offer relative to the overall margin profile of the company?
So currently our branded formulation is in the range of around 20%. So over the last 2 years it has been growing, and we feel it will maintain this kind of growth in the coming 2 3 years. Regarding margins, it is more or less in line to what our gross margins are today, around 35-36% is our realization today. It has improved over the period because of new product launches. New product launches are of higher contribution compared to the older ones.
Okay. And, in response to one of the previous questions, you mentioned that pretty much you have even quarters across the year. So the fall in revenue in the fourth quarter compared to the third quarter, is that something unnatural or is that a seasonal factor?
Yeah, it is generally quarter 4 is for any agrochemical company is soft. So yeah, you could say it is natural. But yet, as compared to, because we are geographically well diversified, that is why we yet have posted a good turnover if you compare versus last year.
Okay. One more question I had was on costing and pricing. I mean, we are seeing a lot of raw material costs go up, base raw materials as well as chemicals, etc. What impact is it having upon your business, and are you able to pass on any additional costs that you're facing on the raw material side?
Currently, the prices are more or less, even the raw material prices are stable. So last year, because of COVID, a lot of prices got depressed and then they rebounded. So accordingly, our prices also rebounded, and now even final price as well as RM prices are more or less stable.
There's no headwind or tailwind from RM prices or from product prices. So your margin profile, we should expect it to remain stable, like you've said in your previous comments.
Yes.
Okay. And last question, I mean, your capacity is expanding by 3x over the next 3-4 years. You've got, pretty much new markets opening up in Europe, in US, Latin America is a wide space. Your domestic formulation as a percentage of contribution to your overall revenues will keep increasing by 1 or 2% each year, as you say. So, I mean, these are like very large growth drivers you have in place. So if you look out for the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, what kind of aspirational revenue growth would you look at?
We feel we'll be able to maintain 18 to 20% growth that we have maintained in the past. Same lines, we feel we will be able to maintain 18 to 20% going forward as well.
Okay. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jigar Walia from OHM Group. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. My question pertains to the public health business. I believe it's a very small percentage, but it has been growing quite well over the past few years. So first related question is, what was the share of this business in FY21 overall? And as far as this business is concerned, globally, Bayer has announced exit in the environmental space. So any opportunities for us in the domestic market as well as some indirect opportunities in the export markets? Yeah.
So regarding public health, it is a very small portion of our total turnover. So it would be in the range of around 5% of the total turnover. We are not into exports for public health in a big way. Majorly, it is government tenders as well as public health operators in India. Public health operators in India. And this year, because of COVID, it has seen some dip. Because government tenders also, majorly the funds were deployed towards COVID funds, towards COVID. We feel over the period we would be able to maintain around 5% sort of exposure to the public health segment.
Understood. Nothing major in terms of taking a big share out of Bayer locally also, or nothing on this line?
No.
It would be about 5%. Okay, understood. So, with regards to the U.S. markets and LATAM and the white spaces, or with regards to the organophosphate issue, so is it that you think that the pyrethroids will be able to capture the market, or the market may move to biopesticides in a large way? So if you can elaborate on biopesticides versus pyrethroids.
I think pyrethroids only will take that share. Once any switch within the agrochemicals, in the chemical space, would be from organophosphorus to pyrethroids or from carbamates to pyrethroids, that way. Regarding biopesticides, it's in a very early stage, so it's not picked up much because the cost efficiencies are less. So chemical pesticides today yet have a better edge. So I think in the near 3-5 years, we do not face any sort of such issue. Biopesticides.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back in the queue, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Trisha Kansara from Molecule Ventures. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is that in the pre-feasibility report, you have mentioned the project viability figures like revenue of around 1700 crore and operating profit of around 200 crore. So are these potential numbers for the additional 10,000 tons capacity or for the total capacity of 24,000 tons? This is my first question.
Not get you.
So in your EC report, you had mentioned the project viability figures, right? Like you are expecting revenue of 1,700 crore and operating profit of 200 crore. So these future numbers, are these numbers for additional 10,000 tons capacity for which you are doing capex currently, or are these numbers for the total capacity of 24,000 tons that you have?
If it is an EC report, then it is maybe for depends on which EC report you are saying.
Sorry, sir?
If it is an EC report, then it depends on that facility. If it is a new facility that you are talking of, then it is an additional capacity. Turnover will be from those additional capacity.
Okay, sir. Got it. So my next question is that the capex which is being done currently is expected to commercialize in September 2022, right? Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Members of the management, if you can hear us, please do respond. Seems like we lost the correct connection for the management. Please do stay connected while we reconnect the management.
We are connected.
Okay, sure, sir. Ma'am, you may proceed with your question.
Sure, thank you. So, sir, I was saying that the capex which is currently being done is expected to commercialize in September of 2022, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can you just give us a rough idea as to when do you expect the particular plant to reach 70-80% capacity utilizations, and when can we see the potential numbers which were mentioned in EC to come in your financials?
See, we have just started. We got the EC recently. Yeah, the planning, it is in the planning stage. We will be starting, our planning is to start at 22 September. It will be a first stage. But due to COVID, the work is also slow. Maybe it may take one more quarter also. But the projection is, our effort is to start in the financial year, the year 22 September. Maybe one quarter here and there will be there. In the meantime, we are also our Sarigam plot is lined up, and there also we will take up the project in future.
But sir, when can we expect the potential numbers which were mentioned in the report to kind of actually flow in the company's financials? Like
approximately 2 years.
2 years, okay. Sir, also, has the capex amount been revised, or is it the same of 110 crores?
Yes, it need not be 100. What is the amount? 100. See, we is a debt-free company, and we have got good profit year on year. That will be deployed to the future projects. Approximately 50 crores per annum will be deployed, and it can be slightly higher than also, since the profitability is better than what it is projected earlier.
Okay, sir. Sir, also, is this CapEx debt funded or is it internal accrual funded?
It is internal accrual.
Okay, sir.
We are not averse to that, to taking debt, but right now it is not required. Internal accrual is sufficient.
Got it, sir. Sir, also, do you indigenously make the technicals and register it in 9(3)? Basically, I want to understand where you stand in the entire process chain of agrochemicals.
Repeat your question.
My question is that do you indigenously make the technicals and register it in the 9(3) section? Or, basically, I want to understand where do you stand in the entire value chain or the process chain of the agrochemicals?
In pyrethroids, we are fully backward integrated. For other products,
sir, can you come again?
the pyrethroids, we are fully backward integrated.
Okay.
For the other products, the new ones which we have introduced, it depends on the number of players in the market. If there is good scope in going backwards, we've gone 1-2 stages backward also. It depends on the volumes that we have received over the period. If product is good, we are okay to go backward as well.
Right, sir. Sir,
Ms. Trisha, ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but for any follow-up question, we request you to
Sure.
the queue, please.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Avinash Agarwal, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. May I know, in the current quarter, this running quarter, is it going better from the last quarter of the March quarter? And what is your future projection of EPS, expected guidance of 2002? Thank you.
Expected guidance would be around 18 to 20% growth. As we've grown over the past, we see that we'll be able to maintain that sort of run rate in the future as well.
And the current quarter is going better than the last quarter, as it is quarter-wise, sale is less. From the December quarter, March quarter was slightly less sale, and the current June quarter, how it is doing?
So it will be in similar range quarter to quarter.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Levin Shah from ValueQuest Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot, sir, for the opportunity. My question is on this gross margin. So, you obviously alluded to the fact that we have H2 much better than H1 as a seasonal kind of business. But if you look at the gross margins, there has been a substantial jump that we have seen in second half as compared to first half. And at the same time, the prices of both raw material as well as finished goods, like you said, has been broadly in the range of 5 to 7% up or down. So what has led to this kind of jump in gross margin?
I will explain. So the variation in two quarters or first half and second half, if you see the business, the domestic formulation, majority of the business takes place in the first half, say from mid-June till September end, basically, which is our main kharif crop season, where the formulation sales mostly happens, but in second half, mostly the technical sale happens, where we have got a better margin profile than compared to formulation. Because in formulation, what happens, we have got a big product basket. Few products are made out of our technicals, we have a better margin, but rest are bought out technicals and formulated and sold. So in technical, which happens majorly in second half, we have a better margins. But overall margins are leveled out, as we have already mentioned, around 33-35%.
Okay. So, sir, if we compare YOY as well, so last quarter, March was around 34% kind of margins, whereas currently we have done close to 41%. So what explains that kind of improvement on a YOY basis?
Yeah. Basically, the improvement in margins are because of 2-3 factors. One is a better product mix that we have. We will be improving our product mix over the period. So one is better product mix, production efficiency, and there has been even purchase efficiency. To some extent, in some of the products, there has been better realizations as well. So there are multiple aspects that have contributed to better margins.
Okay, but going forward, we expect gross margins to be around 35-36%. Or is there any scope for improvement with better product mix over there as well?
It would be more or less in this range, plus minus. That's it.
Okay. Sir, and just one last question on the growth for full year. So we have done around 28% kind of growth. If you can just break it up in terms of volume and value, that would be very helpful.
Be in the range of around 60-40.
So volume is 60 and value would be 40.
Yeah. Okay. You could take a range of 60-65 to 35-40. Something in that range.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nikhil MS, an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Nikhil, your line is in talk mode. Kindly go ahead with your question, please. As there is no reply from the current participant, we move to the next question from the line of Dalwinder Singh from Canara HSBC Insurance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good set of numbers. I would like to check, on the top line side, you have highlighted that you can grow at 18-20% on a CAGR basis over the medium term. So while on the gross margins you have explained clearly, on the EBITDA margin front, if I see this quarter's margins are around 21.5%, while on a yearly basis it is around 18.2%. So as a steady state company basis and not talking of quarterly margins, on annual margins, is there a scope to improve margins further with 18-20% kind of growth? Operating leverage will play out, or this is your max kind of margin? So on the EBITDA margin front, if you can spell out what are your expectations.
So we'll not limit as max margin or something, but we feel that we'll be able to maintain in something in this range only.
Of course, we'll try our best, but we will maintain this. That is
as a blended, we will be able to maintain this kind of margin.
So 18.2, what you have done for the year, that you are talking of?
Plus minus something. Maybe 17, sometime maybe 19, in that range.
Okay, understood, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
So just a clarification on the capex, and you initially mentioned that there is a Dahej expansion for which we have taken the land. There is an ongoing Saregam expansion, and then there is an EHS plot or adjacent plot in Vapi existing unit that we have taken to strengthen the EHS. All this expansion put together, what is the capex? And have I missed anything?
Yes, approximately around 200 to 250 crores. If at all it is to be taken all three sites, it will be spread across 3 years.
Okay. And so what is not so far concrete is Dahej, right?
Yes. It is not exactly Dahej, a place called Saika.
Sorry?
It is near Dahej, a GIDC industrial estate called Saika.
Okay. And the EHS capex in this 250, how much?
Yes. It's around approximately around 10-15 crores.
Okay. And what is going to come over the next 2 years is the Saregam expansion and the EHS, right?
Saregam expansion, then Saika expansion and the EHS.
Acha, Saika also?
Yes.
So this combined 200-250 crores combined is what you're referring. And all of it is going to come over the next 2 years.
Yeah, that is what we planned right now.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deepak Khole from BNK Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Congratulations for good set of number. Sir, can you please guide what is the current status of registration received in international and domestic market, and how many molecules are there in the pipeline?
Currently it is something around 375, both international and domestic. We've been continuously filing new registrations both in India as well as export countries. So as and when we get these registrations, there would be a good scope, that is good growth in our sales as well.
Okay. And sir, you have mentioned about the capex plan. So can you please guide us for the FY22 and how much of it will be in technical and formulation, sir?
Capex majorly will be technicals. So formulation, we've already set up formulation setup in Sarigam. So there won't be major capex for formulations.
And sir, what will be the total capex for FY22?
Total what?
Capex, approximately 100 crores.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That is from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Shingla, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question and congratulations on a very good set of number. Earlier you mentioned that your capacity would be growing by 3x. And on the other hand, you're saying that your revenue would grow by at a CAGR of 20%. So how should we read into these two lines? Like on the one hand, you're adding 3x capacity and you're saying that 20% CAGR would be there for the next few years. So can you please elaborate on these two facts?
18 to 20% is what we've achieved. Regarding the volumes of going 3x, so it will not happen in one go. It will happen over the period, as well as it depends on which product we are selecting and to what stage we are going backwards. So there is a possibility that even though volumes go 3x, if we are going backward, if we are backward integrating, everything will not be sold. It will impact our margins. So.
Okay, so we can assume 18 to 20% revenue CAGR, and probably the bottom line, the net profit could be around 25 to 30%.
No, we'll maintain this range.
Okay.
As a blended, we will be able to maintain this kind of margins.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankit Gupta from Bamboo Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. On the technical side, are we seeing some opportunities on contract manufacturing for the patented products, since we have significant experience on the pyrethroid side on technicals? And if you can just start with that.
So as and when we get opportunity, we would take up any contract manufacturing activities as well. Unfortunately, not all contract manufacturing activities are high margin business. That's why we've not ventured it. But as and when we get good opportunities, we would not shy away from it.
So currently, are we supplying any patented molecules to any of the MNCs?
No.
Not okay. Manufacturing, but we are dealing with all.
No, we are not doing any patented molecules.
Okay. Yeah. So for the pyrethroids, you are supplying to MNC customers, across the globe. Yeah.
Yes. We supply to many of the multinationals.
Okay. And sir, on this side itself, we, because of this China plus one strategy of many of the MNCs, how has been our inquiry flow over the past 1.5, 2 years? Have you seen any significant jump in that, and companies, MNCs approaching you to become their source for this technicals that we manufacture?
Yeah, there has been such cases where because of issues in China, India has been a major beneficiary, in this case, and we have got such opportunities from multinationals, but we found that we could do better in our current model. As and when we get better opportunities, we would take up those kind of contract manufacturing activities as well.
Sure. But currently, are we supplying to these companies on spot basis or?
We are on spot basis.
But these are not long term. This might be few months contract, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year contract.
Yes.
1 or 2 months.
2-3 months.
2-3. Okay, but normally what we have seen is like even this customer, if your supplies are good and they're satisfied with the quality and pricing, and then they do become your regular customers and take annual supplies from you. Has that been your experience as well?
No, generally we do not prefer annual contracts because whenever it is an annual contract, it becomes very difficult to pass on the raw material changes to our customers. So we prefer having a 2 to 3 months order book. And simultaneously, we also have similar kind of purchase contracts with our suppliers. So it protects us in case of any upward movement in raw material prices as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sanjay Menani, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
So if you can speak closer to the handset, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is, any plans to take over any company in near future, nationally or internationally?
Option is always open, even if the opportunity is good. If it is within our range, definitely we will look into.
Sir, my second query is regarding the R&D facilities of the company. Since we are in a sector where R&D facilities matters a lot, so what are the plans regarding the R&D department of the company?
R&D, as mentioned in our RHP also, we've recently set up a new R&D facility in Sarigam. We already have two setups in our Vapi facility. So over the period, we've been very focused, and as mentioned already, 5 new molecules we have been working on, and registration of those molecules, some of those have been in process. So such kind of developments we have been working on, and we'll keep working on such things.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Varshit Shah from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the follow-up. I just wanted to allude to the fact on the capex front. So I think you mentioned that we do anywhere around 250 crore capex to be combined for all the sites. And so this will largely be spread between FY22 and FY23. Is that the right assumption? Maybe 110, 20 crore range each year. Is that the right way to assume capex?
I would say over 3 years. Around 200-250 crores over a period of 3 years.
Sure. And my second question is on the domestic formulation base. So there, I think you have done a lot of restructuring in the, a lot of turnaround in the past, and now actually, if I see your distributor count also, I think it's a decent size. So I wanted to understand, have you largely utilized the potential of the renewed distribution network, or at what cycle you are in terms of, let's say, will you utilizing the potential of the current distribution network? Because I think it's very recent for you in terms of more focused new products, etc. So what is the potential of this distribution network? It is still untapped according to you.
You're asking about the distribution network? How good is our distribution network today?
No. What I was asking was that your distribution network is fairly decent for the turnover. I think your turnover is actually much lower compared to the distribution network you have. So I think what I understand is that you have created a distribution network recently in the last 1-2 years. Renewed the distribution network, and you are yet to fully utilize the potential. What I want to know is how much, let's say the current distribution network can easily cater to 3x revenue. I'm not asking a time, it could be 4 years, 5 years, even 7 years, but at least can the current distribution network cater that kind of revenue base? In the
regarding your revenue increase over the period, we feel we feel over the next 2 years, there could be a possibility of a 50 to 60% growth in our branded formulation business. This is majorly because we've been conservative when it comes to formulation business due to the higher debtor turns, higher debtor period. So higher working capital was required. Today that is not an issue, and we have more or less improved our distribution network also. We have a better distribution network, and we are more confident today to increase our turnover by maybe around 70% over the next 2-3 years in this branded formulation business.
And if I were to see, despite the improvement in the domestic branded business, branded formulation, but debtor days has largely remained stable. So is the debtor days roughly the same in both the business, export as well as branded formulation business? Is that largely similar, maybe give or take 5-10 days here and there?
Only debtor days in export is better as compared to branded formulation business.
Okay.
But margin-wise, branded formulation business would be better as compared to a normal B2B formulation business. So yeah, it is better realization and a little higher debtor days.
Because it's our own brand, whereas in the international business, it is not our brand, it is other brand.
Sure. And one last question on the international side. So I think some of our intermediates like MPBDA, which we produce, they have actually around 50 to 56% anti-dumping duty in China, and still we are able to export to China. Is the cost differential in manufacturing so high that it is still viable for a Chinese guy to import from India despite the anti-dumping duty?
Yes.
Is the assessment correct?
Yes.
So this cost competitiveness comes largely because of the backward integration you have. Is that the way to understand?
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
As well as some raw materials are cheaper in India as compared to China when it comes to MPBD.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll get back. Thank you so much. And all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jigar Walia from OHM Group. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the follow-up. My question was pertaining to the capex by the other peer group as well. Actually, Dhanuka is putting up over 300 CR where it can manufacture synthetic pyrethroids. Anything where any of the other competitors, Tacross, Emani, anybody else, or globally because of this China plus one shift, you see any increased competition also while opportunity increase?
No, at present there's definitely Dhanuka must have planned for synthetic pyrethroid, but it is yet in a very early stage. All the other players are being an older players, so we do not see any new capacities coming in this segment.
So next 2-3 years not happening.
In the areas, but it is not limited to few products. There's so many products in India.
Yes. So exactly. So my next question was pertaining to that. If you can help us understand a little bit more between this alpha, delta, lambda, and there are other products that we are not into. So if you can probably educate us a little bit more, if it is possible. Otherwise, maybe you can take it offline.
Yeah. So we've been in more or less all the pyrethroids, all these major pyrethroids, that is alpha, delta, lambda, Cyper and all. One product which has a good potential is bifenthrin.
Bifenthrin, okay.
We are looking into, and registration activities of that also we've been doing. However, we are not too focused only in the pyrethroid segment. So in the future, over the next 3 years, there will be a switch where newer molecules from other segments would also form a good part of our revenues.
Absolutely. Understood. And existing competition landscape also, all the peer group kind of work into different products, or they are into the same products?
All are means not necessarily same. Some make, we are into the entire pyrethroid range.
And others may be into some specific.
Either in 3 of them or 2 of them. company like UPL makes only cypermethrin. So that way.
And any of these one category that is basically growing faster within these subcategories? Any category which are growing faster?
Category as in?
Any of these products, not category, any of these products which are seeing a faster growth versus the others?
More or less
not necessarily.
Growing in the same pace.
All are growing. So it's not that alpha is growing faster than the others.
From period to period. Maybe in one, maybe today alpha is doing better. Maybe lambda is doing better. In the past, the delta was doing better. So it depends.
Some capacities are fungible between all these three. So for us, but generally, if somebody is into two products, then they remain into those. Not necessarily everyone can get into everything.
Yeah. So since the plant is fungible in nature, we can, depending upon the situation, wherever the demand is more and the profitability is more, we can switch and increase the capacity accordingly.
Understood. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We take the last question from the line of Trisha Kansara from Molecule Ventures. Please go ahead.
Sure. So this is like a follow-up question. So you mentioned that the EC numbers are only of the additional capacity. So this is just for the clarification purpose that are you saying that this new capex of around 100 odd crores will give us an incremental revenue of 1700 crores? Is this the case, sir?
It is already mentioned that in our new facilities, the technical facilities, you could consider an asset turns of around 3.5 times as an average. So it could be better than that, in that range, something in that range.
Okay, sir, got it. Also, sir, can you give us a breakup of the percentage shares of insecticides, herbicides, and fungicides in the technical sales?
Only it is insecticides because
Sorry?
Only it will be insecticides, as pyrethroids are basically insecticides. So our portfolio would be like, as 65% of our turnover comes from pyrethroids, you could say 70% odd would be insecticides.
Got it, sir. Sir, my last question would be that how much do synthetic pyrethroids contribute to our, sorry, my bad. I wanted to ask how competitive is this market and what is China's percentage share in this market?
Basically, the products where we are backward integrated. So these products, we have registration in China, which is a unique factor. Many other pyrethroid players, I can say most of the pyrethroid players do not have this registration. It is a very expensive registration. We are one of the few companies in the agrochemical space who are selling products in China, these pyrethroids in China. So that would give you a feel of which country is stronger.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Ronak R. Shetty for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you all investors who've shown interest in our conference call. And I hope you have a very safe year ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, one and all. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Hirenba Industries Limited, that concludes this conference. We thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Thank you.